Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me today. Welcome to day 2 of our 3D bootcamp. And if you want to learn how to elevate your motion designs with After Effects and Substance 3D 3D Painter, then stay tuned. That's it. I'm not going to suck from this point onward. My name is Eran, and I'm a motion designer, Adobe expert trader, and content creator. But my real passion really lies in helping designers improve their skills with visual effects. So today, we're going to integrate Substance Painter and Stager, by the way. So here is a surprise for you with After Effects to create a short teaser for a TV show. And this is what we are going to create. So hopefully you can see my screen. Yes, you can. This is, of course, just one version of it. All right. So before we are going to continue, actually start with the bootcamp, I just want to make sure that you know how to get the stuff, the materials. So make sure that on the web page of the event, first download After Effects, but I'm going to show you another thing that you need to do because I'm going to use the beta version, or beta, as I'm supposed to say, and you can get it from a different place. But all the 3D tools are here. So just click on the Get Started and you will be pointed to the website where you can download and get a 30 days trial with 50 materials for free. Now, I just want to remind you that this week you're going to learn tips and tricks from industry pros like myself, how to integrate 3D intro into the project that you're working and elevate your design work. Yesterday, if you didn't cut it, Claudia showed you how to use Substance materials and 3D effects in Illustrator, and tomorrow, Wes is going to give you an overview of the full Substance 3D collection. So make sure to register for tomorrow's sessions and catch up Claudia's session on demand. All right, so now I must fulfill my promise. I'm just going to hop quickly to the Creative Cloud app and make sure that if you want to follow along, and by the way, you don't need to follow along, but if you want to try after, go to the beta apps and download the After Effects beta, which is what I'm going to use. Now, I'm going to monitor the chat in another window over here, and I'll do my best to respond to your questions and inquiries. But since I have a lot of stuff on my plate, I don't want to get distracted too much. So my dear friends from the 3D team are monitoring the chat as well, and they will be able to assist you and probably respond quicker than me. I also want to warn you that I'm probably going to be moving very fast between different applications, and I will do my best, as always, to explain the steps and why I'm doing it. However, you don't need to follow along. Just sit back and enjoy the experience, and later, if you want, you can watch the recording and try to recreate something similar yourself. Anyway, this now becomes the longest build-up in the world, so I think we are ready to begin. And I'm going to start here in Creative Cloud. I'm going to go to the stock and marketplace because the first thing that I want to show you, let's close this notification, is where you can get 3D models. So over here under 3D, you can search for anything you like. As you can see, I already searched for Palm, and I can see tons of materials and assets that I can use immediately. As I say, with the as I said, with the trial, you get 50 materials and also assets. And for assets, you can click on this 3D assets. And this is going to open up in another window. Here it is in my browser. And over here, you can search for anything you like. So let's search for a hat. And remember that a hat in the first act will probably return in the second or third. So I can download anything I want from here, and of course I will be able to use it directly inside After Effects, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So instead of just downloading the hat, I want to show you just quickly a scene that I built inside Painter. And when I'm saying build, I started it, and Wes actually helped me a lot here. So if you want to deepen your knowledge, make sure to watch Wes' presentation tomorrow, as he will go much deeper into this 3D Painter part. But I will show you right now that I have a few layers here of this very mysterious treasure island. And even if you have zero knowledge with Substance Painter, you can still understand how this works because this is very similar to Photoshop. So for example, if I'm going to switch off the texture for the leaves, you can see that the texture itself is built from few layers. And of course, I can select other stuff and work with the other ingredients. And I will show you how to work with it in a moment. But for now, because I know that you really want to see how this works in After Effects, and also I am very curious, let's just go to the File menu and choose Export Textures to export this to After Effects. Now, as things stands now, After Effects Beta supports the OBJ, GLB, and GLTF formats. And if you don't know anything about it, the only thing that you need to remember is that this is the option that you need to choose. So I'm going to click on it again and show you this is the first one, GLTF. And this is a special format, which is going to embed everything inside a single file. So we don't need to worry about the textures. We don't need to worry about the object. Everything is going to be baked into this one single file. I'm going to click over here and save it in my favorite place, which is of course the desktop. And without further ado, I'm going to say export. We'll open the output directory just to show you that although I said that you don't need to worry about all those stuff, we actually get a lot of things which are, in this case, redundant. So I'm going to select all the textures and I'm going to trash them, as well as those two extra stuff that I don't need. This is what we want to bring to After Effects, this GLB file. Okay, so I'll switch to After Effects and I'm going to start from scratch. So I'm going to slow down because I already feel that I'm talking probably too fast. Let me know if I am. I'm not catching the chat here. Let me just refresh the screen. I can't see anyone, so I'm going to guess that I'm okay. And I'm going to take a look at it in a moment. But for now, I'm just going to create a new composition by clicking on this icon over here. And I'm going to use these dimensions. Doesn't really matter, but full 1080, 5 seconds long. And I'm going to name it Treasure Island, after the famous, of course, novel by Robert Louis Stevenson. All right, a lot of redundant information. Let's just click OK. Double click on the gray portion in the project panel. This is going to invoke the import dialog. And I'm going to grab this treasure.glb file that I brought, or actually exported from Painter a moment ago. And now I'm going to drag and drop it to the timeline. And because this is the first time I'm doing it, After Effects is going to warn me that 3D models in the Composite require the Mercury 3D renderer, which is again a new feature for the beta. So I'm going to say OK here, and it's going to come very large. After Effects doesn't have any clue about the size of it, but we have a wonderful button over here, Make Comp Size. I'll click OK, and here we have this. Now, we are very tempted, I know, you and I, to grab this gizmo and start playing with it just to show to our friends and our loved ones that this is really a 3D object. But I'm going to actually use the Properties panel, which is, again, another new thing in the beta. So let's scale this guy to 150 and also lower its position down to something along those lines. Now, I'm doing all of this from here just because I don't need to open anything in the timeline. So I don't really need to understand a lot of stuff in After Effects because the Properties panel is something which is similar in other applications as well. All right, so I'm just going to maybe take another angle over here. Let's go to somewhere like 210 so we can see this wonderful crate. And just to show you, this is not a one-trick pony, as Paul Simon used to say. I'm going to open the source files folder and remember the straw hat? Here it is. I took the same measures of bringing it into Painter and here it is. It's already here. We have two 3D objects live in a unified 3D space. Now it's a bit difficult to see them from this active camera perspective. So I'll switch to custom view and this is just going to help me to maybe place it in a better location. And here is a pro tip for you. If you want to orbit around the scene, you don't need to switch to the camera tools in After Effects. All you need is to hold down the Option key here on the Mac, which is the Alt on Windows, and your mouse is going to become a temporary camera. So I'm going to click and orbit, and then if I'm going to use my right mouse button, I can zoom into the frame, drag into it, and this is going to help me to just place it in the desired location. So something like this. Maybe we are going to scale this guy to 50%. And again, I'm going to hold down the Option key and click. And also notice that if I'm going to click on a specific area, it's going to orbit around this area. So this already looks very promising. Now, what I want to do is make it even fancier. And I want to add a 3D title. Now, obviously, we can do 3D titles inside After Effects. This is not a problem. We have this text tool, and we can extrude the text. However, we can't really use textures. So we can only give them solid colors and maybe a bit of reflections. I want it to be a bit more beautiful. And because I have the power of Painter, I want to show you how to do it inside Painter. But I need to create the title so Painter could paint on it. Hopefully this makes sense. If not, just a leap of faith. So to create the title, I'll switch to Stager, which is another application which is bundled inside all the Substance 3D experience. And I'm going to grab the text tool. So I'm inside an empty project, a new project. I'm going to create it right in front of your naked eyes. All right, here is our placeholder text. Let's just say treasure. And just to save some time, and because I have some sixth sense when it comes to designing this, I'm going to click on the favorite font, and I'm going to choose this font, which is the Hoffman font that you can sync from Creative Cloud. I'm also going to change the size of it to 7, go to the depth by pressing on my Tab key, and then also add a bevel. Let's scroll down so we can see what we are doing. I think 50% is going to make everyone happy. Now, I'm also going to teach you a very cool keyboard shortcut that is happening across the entire Substance application, which is F. So if something is selected and you want to frame it, just tap the letter F. Excellent. This looks very, very impressive, but it's going to look even better if we're going to drag this text or even just click over here to duplicate another version of it. So I'm just going to raise this one above and then take this original one. And you guessed it, I'm going to write here island. There is a silent S, but I'm going to write it anyhow. And then I'll set the size to 15. I'll press F again. This is the easiest way to just zoom out inside, but you can of course use the Alt or Option trick that I showed you before. Anything that works for you. All right, this is it. We spent enough time over here. I'm going to select both of these, go to the File menu, choose Export, Selected Models. The reason is that we want to export these to Painter so we can paint on them. And I'm going to save it again on the desktop, calling it TI after, of course, the hotel in Vegas right now. So I'm going to say Export. It's going to take a moment, and that's it. Now, let's return to Painter. Say thank you for this layer and or command, create a new document. So we are starting from scratch now. I'm going to walk you through the stages. I insert texture and model. I'm going to say select. Now I just say my TI object, click OK, and click again OK. We don't need to save this version of the island. And again, just to remind you, I know I sound like a broken record, but holding down the Option or Alt will allow you to orbit over here. So this is a common keyboard shortcut, I guess, for every application that starts with the word Adobe, which is very cool. All right, so notice over here where it says assets, we have plenty of built-in assets that we can use straight out of the box. For example, if I'm going to use this index search and let's start to type in the word rust, I can get quickly to this rust material, which means that I just drag and drop it and it's going to have a rusty appearance. which is, I guess, nice, but let's make it even nicer. And for that, I'm going to clean my search and search for a wall. And I think I'm going to use this texture, but I was too fast. I clicked on it and it replaced the one that I already had. So undo, and then I'll make sure that I'm not doing the same thing. However, I will just drag and drop it. And when I'm doing this number, it's going to add another layer here. So you can see how I'm building those layers. And again, these are very similar to Photoshop. So if you know Photoshop, you probably guess that you can use blending modes. For example, I can multiply this texture and let's just move it just a touch so we can see it, as well as use my scroll wheel to get really closer to it just to see all the details. This looks amazing, and we will be able to see all of those details inside After Effects in a moment. But for now, I'm going to continue with this lichen texture that I really liked. So again, I click and I'll add it to the model. I'll select it over here. I'll make myself a little bit more room so I can see what I have here. And now in the properties panel, except of showing you everything that you already know about, blending mode and opacity, you can also control the way that this material is being projected. So for example, I can change the tiling of it if I want to, which is something that I don't want, but I just want to brag that I can do it. I'm actually after the offset. So maybe let's offset it to a different part so it will look a little bit more interesting. And then I'm going to go to the opacity slider and just reduce the opacity to, say, I don't know, 20, 10. It's very difficult to make up my mind. So let's go with 10. Now, if I want to judge how this looks before exporting it to After Effects or continuing my work, I have this nice snapshot camera, which is the iRay renderer. Clicking on it will ray trace this image basically on a treasure island. And this is just the default background, but it really works for our purpose. Anyhow, I think that I'm really happy from this one. So I'll go to the File menu and I'm going to repeat the same thing that I showed you before. So Export Textures, making sure to select from the options over here, this one, the GLTF. And again, I need to point it to where I want it to be. So over here. And I think that this is it. So let's just do export. Let's open the output directory. We can see the materials and everything that I've exported. And of course, I haven't saved this. So the name here is untitled, but I can easily call it something else. So let's say TI textured or whatever, just something that I know that I can use. And of course, we have some redundant stuff. And because I'm compulsive, I'm going to delete them, but you don't need to. All right, let's bring back After Effects to the front. And let's go to File Import, or you know what, let's just double click and import this one that we've just created, this object, and place it on top of everything. Make sure that it is set to the comp size, click OK. Let's just lower it over here. And again, bring it a bit more forward. I'm going to use the same keyboard shortcut that I talked about before. So I'm zooming out a touch. Going to reduce it over here from the properties panel, making sure it is located where I want it to be. And maybe also bring the head a little bit closer to us, holding down the option and taking a look from a different angle. So you can see that it's not so complicated to design and work in 3D in the new version of After Effects. And it's very, very fast. I'm going to again orbit around the scene. And now what I want to do is make it look a little bit more nicer, more beautiful. And to do it, I need to actually add some lights. So I'm going to go to the layer menu over here inside After Effects. So now I'm inside After Effects. For those of you who are not paying attention, you're going to be punished. Anyhow, I'm going to go to the light and I'm going to add basic point lights just to show you how beautiful it's going to look, because those 3D objects are now going to respond to the light, which is just amazing. Now, as things stand now, and this may change in the future, I can't cast shadows. So even if I'll double click on the light and enable cast shadows, it's not going to do anything. Maybe in the future, but for now, I'm going to show you a workaround, which is kind of a hack. We'll see if this survives the release, I'm going to duplicate this point light by pressing Command D, Control D on the Windows side. Let's just take this light over here and maybe raise it just a touch. And again, I just want to show you where the light is located. So I'm just going to move it, let's say just below. And now I'm going to select the light. And of course I can twirl down everything over here, but this is for babies. I want to show you that if I want to change the light intensity, I need to press the letter T, which is very similar to opacity, but for lights. And I'm going to take the intensity to a negative value. And because I'm using negative values, I'm actually sucking light out of the scene, which is something that you can't do in real life, but you can do inside After Effects. So this means that I can creatively out-direct or relight or suck light from different areas and just create whatever I want to make sure that, you know, I'm grabbing your attention or the viewer's attention exactly to where it needs to be. All right, I'm going to pause for a moment. I'm just going to take a look at the chat in another window. Let me see if I can see if there are any special inquiries, because I feel that I'm just, you know, it's a little bit difficult to judge. Speaking almost to myself here, but I think we are good. Anyhow, can't see any real serious problems. Maybe just my jokes are not funny. So I'm just going to ignore it, as you should as well. And I want to show you that now that we have this scene built up and I will return to my active camera, I can start to animate the camera. And this means that I can go to the layer menu and create a camera over here. I'm going to use, let's say, a 35 millimeter, click OK. And now I can start to animate this. Now, just to save some time and to show you even another cool thing, instead of animating the camera, I just want to show you how quickly it is. So I will really quickly show you that if I want to see, let's say, what I'm doing for the camera, starting from here, I can select it over here and then I'll go to the animation menu and ask After Effects to reveal all modified properties. So it will tell me what I'm modifying. I'm going to enable keyframes over here. I'll go to the end. And then using the same keyboard shortcuts that I've mentioned, I can maybe zoom into this frame or do other cool stuff. So something like this. And just to show you how quickly it works, I will actually render it. The hat is actually not touching anything here, which really bothers me, but you know, I'm not going to do anything for this one for now. I just want to show you how quickly it works. So this is it. This is how quickly this actually works with all the beautiful textures that we had created inside Stager. But again, just to save some time, again, I can't help myself. So I will make sure that the head is really on the island. I'm going to say thank you to this camera. I know you got attached to it, but that's it, it's gone. And I'm going to grab the two cameras that I've created in the final piece, as well as this waves shape layer, copy it to memory by using the secret combination of Command C. I know you are surprised. And then I'm going to paste it over here. And I'm going to take these waves and take it underneath the island. Now, before I'm going to play everything or anything here, again, I just want you to pay attention to this shape layer, which we can actually monitor in the properties panel. So this is just a path I traced around the island. And for this, what I used under its contents, it's the offset path. So it's the same offset path that you know and love from Illustrator, but this guy will allow us to add some copies as well as animate them. So on its own, you can see that this is what it does. Really nice, I think, touch to add to this mystery island. And now if I'm going to press spacebar and play everything, and again, I'm actually rendering it in front of you, and you can see there is a little bit of a problem. We need to take the waves and maybe lower them so we can do it from here, from this menu, which is very easy to control, just so we won't see them at the beginning. And I'll just press spacebar, which is the shortcut inside After Effects to preview. And you can see how everything is working. Now, I must tell you that right now we are using a preview quality, meaning that this is probably not production value in terms of the quality, But if you want to make it really nice and beautiful, you need to go to the options of the renderer and then ask After Effects under the renderer options to raise the quality. So you can go from whatever it wants. I think their default is 8, something along those lines, up to 300, which is going to improve on the anti-aliasing stuff, and all the edges are going to look great. So this is something that you may want to consider. I'm also going to show you that I have another camera over here, which actually starts from a different angle. So you can switch between different cameras inside After Effects. Let's actually go to the final here and switch on camera number 2. And again, I just go to preview it in real time, just so we see how fast and nice those textures look here inside After Effects. So we are actually traveling through those letters from the crate, watching those palms in the background and seeing these wonderful waves rippling towards us. And yes, this is it. Let's take a moment to suck everything inside. And then I want to thank you for tuning in with me today. Make sure to come back tomorrow and follow along with Wes as he creates a full 3D scene in less than an hour. And if you want to learn more After Effects, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Link is under my picture on the webinar page. I want to thank you for your time here today, and I'll see you soon in another tutorial.